Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Aris and I am your online BFF of today. Okay, and if you're my return subscribers, thank you so much for clicking today's video. I truly appreciate it. Okay, bless your day today. Okay, so today we are gonna talk about something interesting because this is what I really love to talk about. It is talking about aliens. Okay, this is not about aliens today. Today we're gonna talk about the incident about the burning of the Library of Alexandria, yeah. So it's just my thoughts, and I just want to share my thoughts with you guys from what I do research. You know what, I really love this topic a lot. Anything about the supernatural phenomenon or whatever is it, whatever theory, wormholes, aliens, extraterrestrial, yes, I really like it. Yeah, it goes or whatever is that. Yeah. Okay, so sorry for my hair because it's a bit messy today, but yeah, just don't mind about it. So yeah. Okay, so it's about ancient Alexandria. Like, okay, so imagine this for a second. You're living 1,000 years ago. No internet, no computers, no cloud storage, and somehow humanity creates what might have been the greatest knowledge center in the history. The Library of Alexandria. Alexandria. I always pronounce it as the Library of Alexander instead of the Library of Alexandria. Okay, whatever. Yeah, and honestly, you see, the more I researched this topic, the more insane it started becoming. Because at first I thought this was just a story about an ancient library burning down and all, and simple, just that's it. But then I realized that nobody actually agrees on what happened. Nobody agrees. Like, literally, some people blame the Romans, some blame the religious group, some think it slowly disappeared over centuries. And then there are theories saying the library may have contained knowledge connected to the pyramids, lost civilizations, and maybe even discoveries that humanity forgot. Now look, I'm not saying that every conspiracy theory is true, but I am saying this whole story gets really, really weird really fast. Yeah, because when you think about it, if there really was a place storing centuries of human knowledge and that knowledge disappeared, how much did humanity lose? Like, seriously, what if there were scientific discoveries we never recovered? And ancient engineering techniques, historical records completely erased from existence. And this is the part that honestly fascinates me the most. Like, because sometimes I feel like ancient civilizations knew more than we gave them credit for. Especially when you start looking at Egypt, the pyramids, like the astronomical alignments, the mathematics, their precisions. It starts making you question everything. And trust me, the deeper you go into this rabbit hole, the stranger it gets. Yeah, so I just want to touch about this topic, quite a brief, about the rise of the Alexandria. So after the death of Alexander the Great, his empire fractured. Okay, because Egypt fell under the control of is that how we pronounce Ptolemaic dynasty. You know what? I need to Google this again. Ptolemaic dynasty. Is that how you pronounce? Okay, whatever. Okay, so first, English is not my first language, so please remember that. Alright, so the rulers of Egypt wanted Alexandria to become the intellectual center of the world. So they began building something extraordinary, not just library, right, but a research institutions unlike anything humanity had seen before. So it is called the Library of Alexandria. Was connected to Moseon, is that how you pronounce? A temple dedicated to the muses. So it functioned more like a modern university. Scholars from across the ancient world gathered there: mathematicians, philosophers, astronomers, doctors, engineers, poets, historians. The Ptolemaians aggressively collected books, scrolls. Some ancient accounts claim every ship entering the Alexandria was searched for manuscripts. The originals were copied. Sometimes the originals were kept, because the library may have contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls, works, from Greece, like Egypt, Persia, India, and beyond that. So we know that the knowledge is beyond its time because many of the history's greatest minds study or work in Alexandria. Alright? So you see, the entity, alright, people like Euclid, Greek mathematicians, they have foundational geometry. Like, and then for another example, like Eratosthenes, Greek mathematicians and geographer, calculated Earth's circumference with the astonishing accuracy, because all of that. Like, so some historians believe that the library preserved knowledge now permanently lost. Scientific theories like ancient inventions, philosophical texts, historical records, literatures that vanish forever, and then disaster struck. But the mystery is this: there was not one destruction theory. There were many. We know that. Alright? So I have a few theories here that I studied. And the first theory is the Julius Caesar's fire. Alright. So the first major theory points to a 48 BC's ago. The Roman general entity, Julius Caesar, the Roman so-called dictator, arrived in Alexandria during a civil war involving Cleopatra and her brother. Okay, and Caesar became trapped in the city, outnumbered, cornered, to prevent, and he wanted to prevent enemy ships from capturing the harbor. Caesar ordered parts of the Alexandria fleet burned, and that the fire spread. Ancient writers later claimed that the warehouses, docks, and possible parts of the city were engulfed in flames. So the question is, did Caesar even destroy the library? Yeah. So some Roman sources that suggest thousands of scrolls were destroyed, and then you see the Roman writers, Plutarch, the Greek historian, later described that the destructions of books, like during the Caesar's campaign. This led many people to believe that Caesar accidentally, burned the Library of Alexandria. But you know what? Historians disagree. Like some scholars argue that the main library may not have been destroyed at all. Others believe that only storage buildings containing scrolls near the harbor burned. And importantly, the library appears to have. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna continue even though it's a bit lag. So it's okay. Okay, so if Caesar caused damage, it may not have been the final destructions. Alright? It may not be the final destructions. Instead, it may have been only the beginning of the library's decline. Right? And next theory is the theory 2, which is the Christian destructions. So, if I'm not mistaken, it's like by the 4th century CE, the Roman Empire was changing dramatically. Christianity was rapidly spreading that time. Ancient pagan institutions began losing political support. Many temples across the empire were closed or destroyed. Alexandria became a center of religious tensions. Pagans, Christians, philosophers, political factions, all competing for influence, So, the destructions of the Serapeum, one key event occurred in around I think it's 391 or 300 CE, I'm not sure. But the Serapeum of Alexandria, a grand temple dedicated to the god of Serapis, was destroyed. So some historians believe that the Serapeum housed a daughter library connected to the main Library of Alexandria. So under orders tied to the emperor entity, like the Theodosius, the Roman emperor, pagan temples were targeted across the empire. So Christian groups eventually destroyed the Serapeum. This led to another major theory, that religious conflict caused the final destructions of Alexandria remaining libraries. So, however, historians still debate whether significant collections survived there by this time. The original Great Library may already have been in decline for centuries, but the destructions of the Serapeum symbolize that something larger, the collapse of the ancient pagan intellectual world. That's the thing, alright? And then after that, the murder of Hypatia. One of the most tragic events linked to Alexandria was the death of the Hypatia, which is a Greek philosopher and a mathematician. So a brilliant mathematician and a philosopher. She became a symbol of classical knowledge, and scientific thought. So Hypatia was murdered by a mob during the political and religious conflict. Her death is often portrayed as the symbolic end of the classical learning in the Alexandria. So though it's not directly tied to the library itself, it reinforced the narrative that the intellectual freedom in Alexandria was collapsing. Alright, yeah. And sorry for the background noise because someone opening a radio, my tenant, they're switching on the radio, so it's kind of loud. I'm not sure whether my camera is capturing it or not, so I'm not sure, okay? Don't mind it. Alright, so next theory is the Muslim conquest story. So it is about the Arab conquest of Egypt, Alright, so another famous theory emerged centuries later is the Muslim forces conquer Alexandria. According to the later story, the conqueror, I forgot that guy name because it was so long, but I remember it's a military commander, supposedly asked the Caliph, alright, what to do with the library's book during the conquers. The reported answers became infamous because if the book agrees with the Quran, they are unnecessary. If they disagree, they are dangerous. So the story claims that the scrolls were burned as a fuel of bath houses. I'm not sure about this. So many of the historians doubt about this theory, even me. I'm doubting this too. Alright? But you see, most modern historians reject this story. Obviously, it's like me, right? I also think like that the same way. Why? Because the account appeared centuries after the conquest. Like, there are no contemporary records confirming it. By the time that Muslim forces entered Alexandria, many scholars believe that the original Library of Alexandria no longer existed. So this theory became popular in later political and religious debate. But historically, the evidence is extremely weak. And still, the story survived because, humanity desperately wanted a single answer, a single villain, a single fire, but reality, reality is often more complicated than it seems. So, and next is the pyramid theory and the lost knowledge. Okay, so first off, the library contained secrets about the pyramids. Not sure about this, but it's from what I just questioning it. So now, this is where things start becoming more speculative, but also really interesting. One theory I personally find fascinating is the idea that the Library of Alexandria may have contained ancient Egyptians' knowledge connected to the pyramids. And no, I'm not saying aliens built the pyramids, but I do think ancient civilizations were far more advanced in certain areas than the modern people assume. Because think about it, right? The Great Pyramid of Giza is still one of the most mathematically precise structures ever built. Even today, engineers debate how it was constructed with such accuracy. The alignment, the engineering, the weight of the stones, the astronomical positioning. It is insane, And do you know how many pyramids that haven't been discovered yet? There are so many things inside the pyramids that never get discovered yet because there are so many trapdoors beneath it. How many secrets are under one pyramid? I truly believe that they are so smart. How can they build that? Alright? So it is insane actually. And you see, remember that Alexandria existed in Egypt at the same time. No, you see, meaning that scholars there probably had access to the ancient Egyptians' records, temple writings, architectural knowledge, and scientific observations passed down for centuries. Now imagine if some of that knowledge actually was stored in the library. What if there were scrolls explaining lost engineering techniques? Who knows? Astronomical calculations, ancient energy theories, or knowledge from the civilizations that existed before the Greeks. Again, there's no hard proof about this. But personally, I think the biggest tragedy isn't just that books were lost. It's that we may never know how much humanity actually knew back then. Sometimes I wonder if the ancient civilizations understood mathematics, astronomy, and natural forces in ways that completely different from the modern science. Like, how can they know that? And if that knowledge disappeared, humanity may have had to start over. So the thing is, how they get that kind of knowledge in the first place? Who are the one that gave them? Alright, so I'm gonna continue again, right? Yeah. And I think that this is why No, the Library of Alexandria became like surrounded by so many conspiracy theories because when people hear that the greatest library in the history vanish, the imaginations goes wild. People start asking, did the library contain a hidden knowledge that we weren't supposed to know? Did it explain how the pyramids were built back then? Did the ancient civilizations know something that we forgot? Or is there some secrets that they encounter, or a creature that they encounter that passed down all the knowledge to them? So some theories go extremely far. Atlantis, lost civilizations, forbidden technology, ancient energy systems, wormholes, even extraterrestrial theories. Now, personally, I think some of those ideas become exaggerated. Yeah, but you know what? That's what we think, right? But I also think that modern society sometimes underestimate ancient humans. Like we look at the ancient world like they were a primitive, but then we see structures like the pyramids, and suddenly that assumptions becomes questionable, right? And maybe that's why the story of Alexandria still fascinates people today, because deep down, people feel like something important was lost. Obviously, like today, many historians support a different explanations, right? So we know that, right? So the last but not least is the slow death theory, right? Today, many see the Library of Alexandria probably did not disappear in one dramatic event. Instead, it likely declined slowly over centuries, right? Maybe it's a war, political instability, economic collapse, religious conflict, neglect, all may have contributed. Library require a constant maintenance. Scrolls decay maybe, buildings deteriorate, scholars leave, governments change priorities and all. Yeah. And you know what? And eventually the institutions faded from existence. Not a single night, but through centuries of decline, because no one taking care of the library. I mean, that theory is kind of makes sense. Yeah. So actually, what exactly was lost? No one truly knows, because some speculates that scientific discoveries vanish, ancient engineering techniques, medical knowledge, historical records, and all. Literally everything. Entire philosophy or whatever. Some theories become like highly exaggerated. All of us know about that. But the real tragedy may be very simple. Okay? Humanity lost countless voices from the ancient world, ideas, stories, perspective, knowledge that can never ever be retrieved or recovered and all. So the conclusion is, why is this story still matters till nowadays? Alright? Because we know that the story of the Library of Alexandria continued to fascinate humanity because it represents something larger than a building. It actually symbolizes civilization's relationships with a knowledge, how fragile knowledge can be. Okay, so the library became a warning, a reminder that preserving knowledge is never guaranteed. Even today, information can disappear anytime because books can be censored, archives destroyed, digital data lost, history rewritten and all. The burning of Alexandria is not just an ancient mystery. It is not. Okay, and I truly believe that it is not. It is a timeless lesson to all of us, to the humanity, because civilizations are remembered not only by the wars that they fought, but by the knowledge they preserve. Okay, so perhaps humanity still does not fully know what was lost in the flame, but it's okay. it's just a lesson, I guess. Maybe, yeah. So enough with all the theories. That's just the theories that I found in the internet. And yeah, it's not fully has a complete solid evidence and all. So it's okay to keep being exaggerate, I guess. Yeah, that's okay, I guess. So that's it for today, because that's all I wanted to share with you guys. Yeah, like feel free to let me know if you guys like has any opinion regarding this, because this is a very interesting topic, you know. Yeah, that's all for today, because I feel a bit tired now. I need to eat dinner. Yep, that's all for today, and thank you so much for clicking my video. That's all from me. Bye bye.